Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or it's doing good Burry. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech Guy. I'm Eagle Falcon. A bit of a different kind of episode today, and there's a couple of reasons for it. I'd like to explain that real quick, because those who are regular listeners and listen to me broadcast this live are going to be incredibly confused as to when this happened. Here's basically what happened. I have been extremely busy as of late trying to get a whole bunch of stuff done for my job. We had to try and fit in 5 days of work in 4 days. There's a lot of planning that had to be done ahead of time because also my boss is going out of town for 2.5 weeks starting next week, Monday. And because of that, I wasn't able to do a whole lot of research during the week. In addition to that, there wasn't a whole lot of news that broke at all this week. If you're familiar with American media right now, there's pretty much only been 2 stories that have been talked about. A political decision made by the White House, which I'm not going to go into because that has nothing to do with technology, and Hurricane Irma. Alright, last week we had Hurricane Harvey, and I didn't talk about Hurricane Harvey because, it was a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. They happen. And it went in, and it did its thing. And before it went in, an evacuation order was given to the most likely impacted cities. But when it hit, it shifted a little bit and also caught Houston as well. On top of that, 2 high-pressure systems developed to the left and right of Harvey, and Hurricane Harvey just sat there. It had nowhere to go. And because of that, it dumped biblical proportions of rain. All into a heavily populated city that had no evacuation order. And you could argue whether you should have evacuated because the city was potentially at risk, you should have been safe than sorry. You could also argue that you shouldn't evacuate because then that would mean all the freeways would be clogged, and then you'd have dead cars on the freeways, and then you'd have more dead when the hurricane came through. You can argue back and forth forever as to which decision was the correct one. In the grand scheme of things, nobody knows, and it doesn't matter. That is how bad decisions should be looked at. Well, not bad decisions, but you know what I mean. Decisions where it is hard to tell what's the correct decision. You pretty much just got to look at the pros, look at the cons of each one, and then you make the call. And regardless of whatever you make, you are going to be second-guessed. That's a matter of fact. Well, last that it was heard, 40 people died in Hurricane Harvey. I'm sure that number has gone up by now. That's just what I heard in the middle of this last week. And then Irma started forming. And Irma is one of the biggest hurricanes ever recorded. And is in fact the biggest ever recorded in the Atlantic. So, of course, after Harvey completely decimated Houston and smaller towns around it, which, fortunately, those smaller towns were evacuated. People are also concerned with, what is this even bigger hurricane going to do? And will the pressure systems do to Irma what the pressure systems did to Harvey? Well, that wasn't really the news with Irma. The news was the fact that Eventually, the trackers realized this thing was going to make a shift up from Cuba and nail all of Florida. And they didn't even realize this until much later on. The reason I bring this up and how this relates into tech news as a whole is the fact that it's absolutely fascinating to me. All the advances we have. The colossal amount of computing power we have at our disposal now as humanity. I mean, I joke and talk about 112 core computers you could build. That's nothing compared to what a supercomputer could have. You could have a 50,000 core supercomputer. And they use supercomputers like this to try and predict where a hurricane is going to go. And they're right maybe 20% of the time. For a while, it looked like this was going to be a worst-case scenario, and Irma was going to hit the east coast of Florida as a Category 5. Well, it didn't. It hit all of Florida, aiming actually more towards the west coast, as a Category 4. And actually, yesterday they were saying it does downgrade to a Category 3, so it's... The point is that it is fascinating, despite the amount of computing horsepower we have, how widely wrong we can be. And on the topic of hurricanes, I want to talk about charity. No, don't go anywhere. I'm not about to guilt trip you into donating. I hate doing that, by the way. I hate it when people do that to me. I hate it when organizations try to do everything in their power to guilt trip you. That's not what charity is. Charity is, in fact, giving to a greater good because you can. The whole guilt tripping and try to play at your heartstrings, especially someone like me who lives paycheck to paycheck, it gets on you. It really does. But what gets on me even more are organizations that are using the modern computing era to try and pose as a charity while they're lining their own pockets. There are tons of organizations that did this for Harvey, and I guarantee you, because evacuating all of Florida is impossible, the death toll of Irma is going to be higher than Harvey. The damage is going to be more widespread than on Harvey. Whereas Harvey is almost all flood damage and is going to be difficult to repair, Irma is going to be almost all wind damage. And it's going to be a lot more widespread. I guarantee you there's going to be hard pushes to raise money for Hurricane Irma victims. And for those of you who can donate, for those of you who can assist, I want to encourage you to pay very, very, very close attention to the organizations you are donating to. I would strongly recommend donating to organizations that have a good track record of helping out. The American Red Cross is the first one that pops into my head. Another way to go is to actually go to organizations you know are legitimate and have done this for a long time, or have a track record of being reputable. One of the ones I think a good chunk of my audience knows about, but others may not, is the Twitch channel Games Done Quickly. They, in fact, unfortunately, I didn't find out about this marathon run they did until after my podcast aired last week. They actually did do a 3-day marathon run to raise directly to the Houston Food Bank. They literally, days before, worked with the food bank to make sure that they could take in the money from across the globe. Games Done Quickly in that marathon run. If you know Games Done Quickly, what they normally do is that they usually have the speedrunners who do the speedruns fly out to a conference hall and have them all in one location. They couldn't do that this time. This was the first time, at least that I know of, that Games Done Quickly... I keep calling Games Done Quickly. It's actually Games Done Quick. Everyone calls him either. Most people just call him GDQ. Regardless. They raised $225,000 in a marathon run for charity with almost no advertising they were going to do it. Now, GDQ is due soon to do their fall raising for, I think it's like for the children's hospitals or something like that. They're due to do that soon. I wonder if they're going to shift that for something involving Hurricane Irma. I guess we'll find out. And hopefully, any listeners I have in Florida do in fact make out of this safe. Because unlike Harvey, where the damage was extremely unexpected, Irma is expected to be devastating. Maybe they will be wrong, and that Irma will die out and won't do a whole lot of damage. But so far the projection is not as such. As of this time of recording, which is 12:11 p.m. Central Standard Time, Hurricane Irma is making landfall on the west coast near the Florida Keys. Its current track record, or I shouldn't say track record, current track projection is that it'll make its way all the way up to the Florida Panhandle, then make its way through Georgia, still as a tropical storm, and then Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then oddly enough, still as a tropical depression, so not really a hurricane, but still a pretty powerful storm, it's going to make its way up into Illinois and Indiana, into the Midwest. I mean, it won't get near me up here in Wisconsin. Still, though, when was the last time any ounce of tropical storm weather made it into the Midwest at all? That is what's surprising. Now, if you're actually near me in the Midwest, don't panic. It's a tropical depression. I mean, It's just going to be a kind of a windy thunderstorm. Whoop-de-doo. We see those all the time. We're not going to have to go get into a shelter like they are down in Florida. We're not going to have to evacuate. We're not going to go buy gallons upon gallons of water. Or suck our gas stations dry. Or panic. Nothing like that. No. It's still just amazing that a bit of it might make its way up here. What are you going to do? I think I've talked long enough about something that is only like 10% related to technology. Let's actually go to something that's 100% related to technology. Actually, no, I lied. This one's only 50% related to technology. The Apple mothership is complete. This was one of the last things that Steve Jobs planned out. This very large structure that kind of reminds you of the spaceship from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This massive ring of an Apple campus. And honestly, I'm still kind of surprised at the design of it because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense still. I mean, it is a giant ring. There's a giant courtyard in the middle of this massive ring. Why isn't there more campus inside that? But whatever. The point is that Apple Park is finished. It is now a real thing. And for those of you who thought that Half-Life 3 was going to come out before the Apple Park was finished, well, I guess it's time to start paying up. Alright, how much do I owe Jeff? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. I'll make sure to just send that to him. It seemed like a smart bet at the time. In addition, one of the first things that Apple Park is going to be doing, it is going to be holding the announcement on September 12th for Apple's new iPhone. Or at least the announcement that everyone is 95% certain is going to be the new iPhone. Now, I haven't been talking a whole lot about this iPhone because the rumors didn't smell right to me. And in fact, a lot of the rumors still don't smell right to me. Let me just go over what does smell right. Apple is going to release an iPhone 7S and 7S Plus. That's going to be the current iPhones with slightly better guts at a normal price point. That smells right. Apple will also release an iPhone with a different name, like an iPhone Edition or an iPhone X, something along that line, that will be a radically new design. That one smells slightly fishier, but I'm still confident that's going to happen. The iPhone X is going to be nearly bezel-less. Almost the entire front is going to be screen, with the exception of a little indent at the top where the front-facing camera, the ambient light sensor, the proximity sensor to your face, and the speaker will be housed. I believe that is also going to be correct. There is still going to be screen space to the left and right of this bezel, the only piece of this phone that's going to be bezel. And Apple's going to use that as an integral part of the design to have on the left side have your cell reception and on the right side have your battery life. I believe, along with these rumors, that that's going to be pushed as a new feature to do away with the absolute cluster mess of icons at the top of the screen. I believe that is correct. Where things start falling into the realm of absurdity is actually no. There's one more rumor I do believe is correct. The rumor that the iPhone X will have facial recognition and it will be pushed hard as a secure method for unlocking your phone. I believe that is correct, but I believe Apple is wrong. Here's why I believe that's wrong. The belief here is that facial recognition is more secure than the fingerprint reader that's already built into the iPhone. However, I believe that the facial recognition is going to be a huge, underline, huge liability. Apple is going to try and push the fact that their facial recognition will do a 3D scan so that a picture won't work. That's the first concern I have. If it actually will do that and it won't just take a 2D picture. Because all you have to do is just do a printout of my face, hold it up to my phone, and you're in. The thing I'm also worried about is, let's say I set my phone down. Someone tries again and just says, "Hey, Eagle, can you come over here for a minute?" And I go, "What?" And then they just hold up my phone and goes, "Ha, I'm in. Now I'm going to do a whole bunch of purchases. If they needed my fingerprint, they couldn't do that. There are plenty of other scenarios you can imagine. Or just someone stealing your phone and just holding it up to you in a teasing manner and start doing all sorts of awful things because they're... I'm trying to think of words that won't force me to put explicit on this episode of the podcast. Because they're weenies. We'll go with that. Those sort of things, it creates a vulnerability that didn't exist before. In addition, people were talking about, with a gel you can just steal someone's fingerprint off this and then hold it up to the sensor. Again, you can do it with a picture. I mean, unless there's a 3D camera, which means 3 sets of cameras on the front in this tiny little bezel, it's going to be a vulnerability. I have a hard time believing that that's going to be a better secure method. Other rumors, and this one I have a hard time believing, is that Well, there's two parts to this rumor. One I do believe is true, the other I don't. One rumor is that the home button will be gone. I do believe that. I think the home button is going to be gone. It's going to switch to a virtual one that has existed on Samsung phones since... Well, I was going to say since the dawn of time, but that's not true. I want to say the S5, but I'm not sure. No, they hadn't even had one. Actually, the S still have a physical button? I think they do. Regardless, most Android phones don't have a physical button. I think that was one of the things Samsung did to try and differentiate themselves. But the other half of this rumor is that the fingerprint reader is going to be gone with it, and it's not going to move to the back. I have a hard time believing this. Because there are so many R&D rumors, and I mean they were omnipresent a year ago. That Apple was working on getting the fingerprint reader to be as accurate anywhere on the touchscreen. It is for that reason I have a hard time believing that the fingerprint reading feature, that Touch ID as a whole, will be gone. I find that extremely hard to believe. The headphone jack being gone. I believe that's going to happen. The screen is going to be OLED. Ugh. Apple has hated OLED. I have a hard time just seeing them go, yeah, we'll do OLED now. Especially after Samsung phones are suffering hard. From a lot of their phones just having the OLED screen die. I know 6 people just locally that before even 2 years were up, the screen failed because of faults in OLED. Apple hates jumping on new technology until it's mature. I do think that the new iPhone X, or whatever it's going to be called, is still going to be LCD. It's going to be a good LCD, but I think it's going to still be LCD. I just can't see them going OLED. I mean, those are all the big rumors. Those are the rumors that are believable. Some of them are a little out there. Curved iPhone screen, I have a hard time seeing Apple do that. The cost would just be way too high. Sapphire glass, I don't see them doing that. 4 cameras on the back. Come on, get real. A lot of these just ring out. Oh, here's my favorite. Power button in the back. Come on, give me a break. Android's doing that currently, and Android needs to learn better. It's not a good idea. They need to stop. They desperately need to stop doing that. It's just bad. It's just awful. Rumors also say that this event will introduce a new Siri, which, take your pick. An Apple TV with 4K support at long last after 10,000 years. No word as to whether it's going to have Amazon TV support, or Fire TV, or whatever. Some say definitely, others say definitely not. So I say flip a coin. But here's the one that, to me, smells like no. The September 12th announcement is also supposed to reveal a new Apple Watch Series 3 with LTE. That means that the Apple Watch, the device that's barely grown up, that barely can find its place in the world, will be able to exist independently of the phone. Yeah, okay. The watch with the comically bad battery life is going to have LTE in it. The watch notorious for just being an entire mess to navigate. The watch that people still can't figure out what's going to be the best method of actually using it. It's going to have LTE so you can use it on its own. No. Get real. What good is an Apple Watch with LTE going to do? Now, maybe, just maybe, there's going to be a new software announcement announced with Apple Watch 3 that fixes every single problem that it's going to have. I'd say don't get your hopes up. Oh, that's the other thing, actually. I forgot to mention. Rumors also say the new iPhone is going to have wireless charging. Flip a coin. I think it's possible, but I also think they could screw that up too. Anyway, back to the Apple Watch. That was just one thing that just kind of glanced at me at the corner of my eye on the article I'm using from Ars Technica. Here's what Apple should be focusing on with the Apple Watch. First off, a new design, please. Pretty please. The Apple Watch design looked like a toy from the get-go. And age is not making it better. I'm looking back at my Samsung watch, which is now, in fact, just a watch because I no longer have a Samsung phone. And it still looks good. The rounded face going as close to the bezel as possible, incorporating the bezel into the use of the watch. The UI on that watch, I love. The way that watch functions, I love it. The only downside with the Samsung watch is that nobody supports it. It has no apps. It has no support. The Apple Watch is an utter mess to navigate and use. But there's so many Apple developers that everyone and their mother is making an app for the Apple Watch. There's tons there. but the UI is just awful. The design is mediocre at best. But we'll see. I mean, I'm judging right now based on rumors. Who knows? Maybe Apple will shock everyone and announce they're going to launch a circular watch in 2 months. I seriously doubt they're going to launch it soon because of the fact there's no rumors supporting such a thing. But who knows? But here's going to be one thing I think you should also expect to hear from, even though nobody's talking about it. The Apple announcement I also expect will talk about the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro future. The iMac Pro, which nobody believes me, but I believe to be the replacement of the Mac Pro, is going to be coming out mid-November. It's going to make sense that it's going to be talked about. So I would expect some talk about that. I would be a little surprised if it wasn't, but not too surprised, if that makes sense. And finally, I'm going to close out today's episode, which I know was very Apple heavy and Hurricane heavy, with something completely out of left field, as I always do. So let's talk about Tesla Motors for a minute. Tesla Motors, the darling tech company that has ADHD and has big plans, but has an extremely hard time executing them. The car company that barely sells cars, but is still just a dominant force on the stock market for reasons that baffle everyone. And I do mean everyone. Wow. What are they planning this time? Is it an electric pickup truck? Are they building an electric bicycle? Are they building another kind of battery for the home? Are they building new solar panels? Do they make a deal with Mobile to put charging station, gas stations? No. No. This is even weirder and sillier than that. And I am one of the only tech guys with the knowledge to talk about how silly this idea is. I'm not even kidding when I say Tesla is going to build an all-electric, heavy-duty big rig. An all-electric semi-truck. Now, in fairness, one of the key things on a semi-truck is that you need a lot of torque. The two factors on an engine that are looked at the most are torque and horsepower. In the very quick Idiot's Guide to how engines work, the amount of torque an engine has determines how efficiently the engine can pull something, including itself, from a dead stop. Horsepower determines how well the engine can accelerate already in motion. I know it's more complicated than that, but that's the idiot's version. Semi-trucks use diesel engines because diesel engines have a metric ton of torque. Not literally. Actually, maybe literally. I never actually thought about it. Regardless, actually, how would you measure torque and weight? I digress. That is the main reason that diesel is used. There's a ton of torque, and there's enough horsepower that once the truck gets in gear, it can go. These trucks, normally your vehicles have 4, 5, 6 gears. Usually 4 or 5. Most of you don't know it anymore because most cars are automatic. Manual drivers know. Most vehicles have 5 gears. Semi-trucks have anywhere between 10 and 18. Some, very few, even higher than that. It's to the point where the stick pattern has a splitter so that you can have multiple pattern do the H pattern multiple times. But right now, Tesla is working with Daimler. Daimler Trucks is the company that owns Mercedes Sprinter as well as Freightliner. For those of you who don't know. And they are planning to build an electric semi-truck. Now, in all fairness, Freightliner knows their stuff. It's not like Tesla went to the biggest idiot in all of trucking. What's more amusing to me is that Tesla didn't go to Volvo, a company that is far more interested than Freightliner in making alternative fuel trucks. But here is the headline that really takes this whole thing of everyone saying the Tesla Semi could in fact be the biggest catalyst in decades. And it could operate 70% cheaper than any other semi-truck, and blah, 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 blah. Everyone has high hopes for Tesla because everyone always has high hopes for Tesla, and Tesla never, ever delivers on it except in range. The range of the vehicle is the only thing that Tesla has ever successfully delivered on. Ever! So, I mean, let's think about it for a minute. Big rigs. They are pretty much the sole vehicle that is the lifeblood of countries. Just here in America, there are hundreds of thousands of big rigs on our interstate highways. People living in the trucks because they travel so much. Traveling over 25,000 miles. No, wait, no, I added a 0. 2,500 miles a week. To get goods from a warehouse, to grocery stores, to department stores, to anywhere you can buy anything. So what's the range of the Tesla Semi. How far can the Tesla Semi get on one charge? According to Ryder Trucking, 200 to 300 miles. $200 to 300 miles. Want to know how much a big rig can get on their tanks? A fully filled big rig? Let's do some math, shall we? The average capacity of a tank on a big rig, and we're talking long haul. I'm always going to talk long haul. You can say, okay, this has a future in regional. Nobody cares about regional. Regional trucking has a place in the world, but if you're going to make as big an impact on the trucking industry as people say Tesla is going to, you have to be making that impact in long haul trucking. On the industry where truckers are living in the truck, clocking in thousands of miles a week. All right? $100 gallons per tank. 2 tanks, 1 on each side. The infamous dual saddlebags. So you're talking 100 plus 100, right? Now, your average semi-truck, I'm going to guess fairly average. You have some of the newer rigs, such as your Volvo VNL 760s that are just coming out, getting close to 10. Your Kenworth T680s get about 9.8. The new Freightliners get close to 9.5. Peterbilts are still flirting in the 8 area. International has no idea what they're doing right now, but they're still figuring that whole thing out. So I'm not going out yet, but I have no idea what their mileage is right now because they're just like redoing their entire lineup. So actually, I should rephrase that. It's not that International has no idea what they're doing. I have no idea what International is doing. I suppose I should phrase that better. Give them the benefit of the doubt. So let's estimate real low and say 8. 8 miles to the gallon. 200 gallons per tank. Oh, that's 1,600 miles. Now, I'm going to take this a step further. Is the semi-truck including the power to power the air compressor? Semi-trucks have a small air compressor in them and fill up air tanks. This powers the air brakes. Now, you could say that you don't need air brakes on the Tesla semi-truck because it does this, that, and the other thing, and it can do it a whole lot better because it has an electric motor or whatever. All right? I don't even know if it can. Let's pretend it can. You still need the air compressor because the trailer has air brakes. Now, let's pretend you also have a refrigerated trailer, or a reefer, as they're known. You still got to power that somehow. Which means, more than likely, you're still going to be filling up on diesel for that as well. or it's going to be drawing off the battery. Look, I don't like dumping on Tesla's parade. But I'm not one to beat around the bush. If there's one thing you've learned from me listening to me do these podcasts, I don't like BS. I call out BS every time I hear it, without hesitation. And I will inject reality into any sort of whimsical fantasy that someone has in the tech world until they prove to me that their fantasy can become reality. And let me tell you something. A semi-truck that can only travel 200 miles? That's a joke. An absolute and utter joke. And maybe next time Tesla wants to come out and say, we have a plan for an electric semi, and they plan on releasing this soon. They plan on announcing this semi-truck soon. Late September is when they're supposed to be announcing this, according to rumors. And if those rumors are true, and that these rumors and these fantastical illusionary dreams of an electric semi-truck that can only travel 200 miles, and that's supposed to change the industry, I'll come back on this microphone and I will point and laugh at every single Tesla fanboy who thinks that this is a good idea because they want to continue to live in this world where electric's the future and produces no environmental impact, even though it does, because you have to burn fuel to make electricity. Efficiently, anyway. And say that there is no way on this entire planet that the Kenworth T680, the Freightliner Cascadia, the Volvo VNLs, the Mack Pinnacles, the Western Star whatevers, any Peterbilt on the entire Earth, or the International ProStar, Lone Star, or LT will get replaced by an electric Tesla semi-truck going 200 miles a day before having to recharge for 6 hours. That is reality. And that's going to do it for me, guys. I thank you so much for listening to me rant today. If you have any questions, comments, want to yell back at me for taking a dump on Tesla, feel free to email me at eaglefalcontech@gmail.com. I'll be back next week, hopefully with a live show. Take care. See you then. Stay safe, everyone.